we are go for launch.
5.
Quiet, numbskulls, I'm broadcasting.
Anything can happen in the next half hour.
4.
My friend, we cannot keep this a secret any longer.
This whole thing is insane.
3.
Quiet, please. I am analyzing.
Where's the kaboom?
2.
There was supposed to be an earth-shattering kaboom.
1.
They're coming. Stay hidden, or we will not survive.
Leave us alone.
When the time comes, he must be trained.
Like you trained his father? You still want Kenobi. He's gone.
Maybe you've been looking in the wrong places. I want every lowlife and bounty hunter to squeeze him. You can't run Obi-Wan! You can't escape him!
Greetings, my fellow galactic travelers, and welcome back to Planet 8. This is your mission commander Larry speaking to you from our hidden base. Chief Engineer Bob is here by my side as always in the command center, and circling Planet 8 in our orbital spy satellite is Reconnaissance Officer Karen.
And on this episode of Planet 8, your intrepid crew has been very, very involved in studying and watching the Obi-Wan Kenobi series over on Disney Plus. And so we're going to talk about our impressions of the show, things we liked, things we didn't like, what worked, what didn't work. And straight away, we'll kick it up to the satellite. Karen, take it away.
All right. Thank you, Larry. Well...
May the force be with you.
And also with you.
Thank you.
You know, this is one of those shows where it's like when I first heard about it, it was sort of like, well, I don't know. Do I want to see an Obi-Wan Kenobi show? Do we need an Obi-Wan Kenobi show? I mean, the truth be told, I don't know that we've actually needed any more Star Wars since the original Star Wars. It told a complete story, and you know, it's not a matter of need. It's just a matter of, you know, hey, here's some more entertaining stuff, right?
Now, Karen, may I ask you, when you say Star Wars, do you mean the Star Wars movie or the first trilogy?
I'm talking, when I say the words Star Wars, I'm talking about the movie that came out in 1977.
So you think that's all we needed?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying when people ask about, you know, oh, is this really necessary? Do we need this thing? It's like, well, none of it's necessary. You know, they could have, like in some other universe, I'm sure they stopped. George Lucas was like, I don't want to make any more of these. And there's just Star Wars and there's nothing else, you know?
Well, let me ask you, the second season of original Star Trek, was that necessary?
Okay. I was just trying to make a point here is that if you're going to argue that do we need Obi-Wan Kenobi?
I just tried to clarify.
I'm just saying, I was trying to start us off on a you know, I didn't want to just say, I liked Obi-Wan Kenobi, and the reason I liked it was, you know, I wanted to give us a little something to think about. But
forgive me.
What I'm saying is, you know, you could easily ask, did we need it? We didn't need it, but did I like it? Overall, I liked the show. I think what I enjoyed about it was what it showed us about some, you know, familiar characters in different places in their lives that we hadn't seen before. We saw Obi-Wan at the end of the first trilogy, the prequels trilogy, downtrodden, and we pick up with him in a place where he's, completely lost all confidence and in a really downtrodden state, and then get to see him sort of recover himself. And the biggest surprise for me out of this whole thing was seeing a young Princess Leia, and that was not something I had ever thought about. But the way they did it in this show, and I want to hear what you guys have to say, but they did a great job casting the role. The little actress, Vivian Lyra Blair, was so perfect. I was totally convinced, yes, this is Princess Leia at 10 years old. And it was just interesting to see her, as that child and see the traits in her and things that we would recognize later on. Even bringing in Vader, which I was a little skeptical about, like, oh, what are they going to do with Vader on TV and so forth. But even bringing in Vader and showing us a Vader that was somewhat different than we had seen in the original trilogy, where and even in like other things like Clone Wars or Rebels, where he's still very much consumed with his hatred for Obi-Wan. In some ways, not as maybe confident as we would see him later on, like in Star Wars or Empire. It was an interesting take on the character. So I thought that this show did some things that showed characters in places I hadn't seen before. Also brought in some new characters. I liked Reva. I think maybe they could have used her a little better. But I thought the character was interesting. And, Owen, too, I guess is a returning character, but the way they presented him made him, to me, a more fully embodied character. So there was stuff in there that, I know it's like, yeah, we know they're not going to die. Well, we know they're not going to die, but at least we can see a little more to them. So I liked that. Overall, most of the story I enjoyed. I thought some of it was very repetitive of things we'd seen before, but there were some really good parts to it. And yeah, I enjoyed watching it. Now I'll shut up and let you guys talk about it.
Well, show's over. Thanks for listening.
What'd you think, Bob? I know you're not too big on, all the cartoons and.
Well, I mean, I'm pretty much a Star Wars movie guy. And then, these Disney Plus series, haven't really watched the cartoons or read the books or the comics or whatever. But overall, no, I thought it was a good segue between the original trilogy and the first trilogy and the original trilogy, I guess, if whatever you want to call them. And, it definitely, I thought it was definitely cool that they brought Vader in because, I mean, hey, he was created at the end of the first trilogy. So where'd he go? What did he do? What's his background between then and when he shows up in Star Wars? And I think this was a pretty good transition for him because he's, all out to get revenge on Obi-Wan, and then at the end he's, the Emperor kind of refocuses him. This is what you need to do. You're not supposed to be running after Obi-Wan all the time. The character Reva, was added. I thought she was good. I didn't hate her as much as some online Star Wars fans that like anytime you bring in a woman who's not like pure white, then everybody freaks and hates them and sends out death threats and whatever else they do. But no, I thought she did a good job. I thought it was a cool twist. Spoiler alert! I thought it was a cool twist that she was coming after Obi-Wan and trying to get Obi-Wan, and it turns out she was trying to get into Vader's good graces so she get close enough to him to kill him, take her revenge on him. So. I thought that was good. At first, bringing in Leia as a kid almost felt like, are they doing this because of Mandalorian and Grogu were so big and popular that now they need some maybe Star Wars character to be in there and, pull in fans. But she did well as a character, and it was definitely watching their relationship between them throughout the 6 episodes. It explains better why she's calling him and he's our only hope, and she's reaching out to him at the beginning of Star Wars. Yeah, because originally it's like, okay, he's a Jedi and he fought for her father at one point. Great. But now we know, the two of them had a relationship. They had adventures. I mean, who knows if they're not going to have more adventures between now and then, if there's a season 2 or season 3 of Obi-Wan, is she going to be in it? Are they going to have more adventures together? So I thought it was good. I thought the pacing was good. Only 6 episodes, so you didn't have a lot of filler in there.
Yeah.
Because that's the big problem with a lot of these that go 10, 12, 13 episodes. It's like, well, that could have been told in half that and not had 2 or 3 episodes of, useless, off-topic filler stuff. But this, no, I think this was good. Good pacing, good story. I know they originally wanted to make an Obi-Wan movie, and then I guess with the epic failure of Solo, they said, no more movies, no more Solo movies, or no more single character movies, I guess. So it took a while before they came back around to it and decided to make it a TV show or a series. But no, it was good. Much better than Boba Fett.
A nice note to end on, Bob.
Just one more jab at Boba Fett.
Well, again, you can't see my camera for the podcasters, but I prominently have a Boba Fett premium format figure over there on the back table. Anyway, I was excited when they announced it. And it's funny, Karen and I, we were talking beforehand. If I don't catch myself, I get caught in all these little criticisms that I find not necessarily a fault in, but like when he meets Leia, that I had no idea Leia was going to be such a big part of the show. But in the original Star Wars, she does that message via R2-D2. And she says, help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi, you're our only hope. But she says, years ago, you served my father during the Clone Wars. She doesn't talk about the adventure. Years ago, you saved me from kidnappers. And when they retcon stuff like this, you have to go with the flow, or otherwise you're going to waste hours on Twitter complaining about, issues with Leia and meeting Obi-Wan. With the trailer of the show, we all knew that Hayden was coming back as Vader, and that was going to be cool and interesting. I thought it was going to involve more of Luke, and but that's okay, and maybe there will be a second season. Do they need to have a second season? I mean, that's a good question, a fair question as well. I know Bob doesn't think there should be a second season of Boba Fett, and Karen would probably agree.
I think they subverted everybody's expectations when they brought in Leia, right? Because we were all expecting, something's going to happen with Luke, and he's going to have to protect Luke, and we're all so focused on that, right? And when they brought in Leia, it was like, from left field, it was like, what? Leia's going to be in this? So I thought that was a good
charming,
move.
Though. Yeah, exactly. And the dialogue that he had, and such a good actress. Did you know my parents? Did you, and it was like, well, no. And then at the end, he oh God, it's not a Baby Yoda touching Mando's face moment for me, but it was a very poignant. And spoiler alert, kids, we're going to be talking about the series in its entirety. And he just describes who Anakin was to him and who Padme was to him. And it's moments like that make the prequels a little more meaningful, I guess, to us old farts who, think Star Wars, Empire, and Return of the Jedi are all we needed. Something that struck me, though, with young Leia, and I posted this on Facebook, is that the next time she'll see Ben is when Vader strikes him down. And that's going to be, since they were born, that's going to be the only time Ben will see them together, Luke and Leia. So it's kind of like,
unless it happens in season 2 or 3, but
well,
now we'll never know. We'll always be wondering, right? We'll say, well, this is what happened. And it's like, but was it? Because in the next series.
Yeah. I like that they brought in the Grand Inquisitor. And I thought Third Sister, fantastic actress, great role. I hope we find her in Andor, the series, or maybe she'll get her own series. Who knows? I know. You're right, Bob. Disney's shying away from the standalone films. There were going to be legacy movies for a young Yoda, a young Boba Fett, and
it sounds like they're all going to be TV shows now.
They're all going to be TV shows. Yeah. This series kind of reminded me of the Hawkeye series. It's an older, less vibrant version of Obi-Wan. And, I was talking with Jasmine, and it's like, yeah, it's 10 years, but it's 10 years on Tatooine, because the next 10 years are going to age him like a mofo.
Oh, let me tell you, living in Phoenix, this heat wears you down. I would be surprised if, I don't wind up aging 20 years in the next 10 years, because, heat will do that to you. So, when people say stuff like, well, how does he wind up looking like, Alec Guinness? It's like, just spend some time out in the desert, man. You'll figure it out real quick.
10 years from now, Karen's going to be roaming around the desert with Jedi robes. And
who says I'm not doing it right now?
Oh, it could be.
Now, 10 years from now, she'll be on the ice planet of Hoth, otherwise known as Colorado, and
we'll see if I am fortunate enough to leave the Junlin wastes. I don't know. One thing that gets me about Star Wars is this concept of redemption. Mm-hmm. So, back in Return of the Jedi, Luke goes after his father, and he feels like he's going to be able to turn him back to the light side, and eventually through they fight, and Luke turns away from the dark, and he tells the Emperor, I'll never go to the dark side, and blah blah blah, and then the Emperor starts zapping him, and that's enough for Vader to be overcome and decide, oh, I'm going to save my son, I'm going to destroy the Emperor, and so Vader's redeemed at the very end, right? It's sort of like, and I'm not Catholic, but sort of my understanding was like, even if you've done horrible things, if you're on your deathbed and you suddenly accept Christ, it's like, okay, good for you, you can go to heaven,
Yeah, that's the whole key to Catholicism. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's just like, you killed a lot of people, but that's all right. So then we have like Reva, and she's done horrible things. But then, towards the end of the show here, she realizes, oh, I don't want to kill Luke. I'm becoming like, Anakin and all this other stuff. And I, the thing is, it's like, in real life, well, I guess real life doesn't really apply here, but I guess there's a sense of redemption for her because, she, at the last minute, she didn't kill the kid, and she she feels some sort of remorse and all this other stuff. But she did kill an awful lot of people and do bad stuff, right? So it's sort of like, I guess if at any point you decide, I'm not going to do that stuff anymore, you can be redeemed. Now, on the other hand, it feels like, and my friend Doug pointed this out, Disney or whoever has decided, let's really make Vader a villain. And they're really making him a baddie. And I kind of like that. I like Vader as like a real bad guy. And it almost feels like he's irredeemable anymore. You know, especially the way he was at the end of the 6th episode, where he was just sort of like, I killed Anakin.
Yeah, I mean, if you take Return of the Jedi out of the picture, then yeah, he's like one of the great screen villains of all time. Which is cool. Yeah. Darth Vader, Ming the Merciless, that type of thing. But yeah, I don't know. Once he's like appearing near the campfire during the Nub Nub song or whatever, then how can he suddenly be the greatest villain of all time? Yeah. So he's kind of redeeming himself as a villain in this series.
Mm-hmm.
So you think a villain needs to meet a fire ant like Hans in Bruce Willis. Die Hard.
Die Hard, yeah. Hans Gruber.
Yeah, Hans Gruber.
Just to fall off the thing. And
well, I mean, that's all fine, Vader, but I mean, the thing with Anakin or Vader is, yeah, he destroyed planets. I mean, he was like killing millions of people, and then he's staying there in the campfire with Obi-Wan and Yoda, and everything's great, and Luke's smiling, Luke and the Ewoks are nub-nubbing, and yeah, it's like.
But Luke killed all those, I guess, bad guys on the Death Star, but he was considered a hero because they were bad, so they needed to die. That's kind of my argument, like at the end of the Avengers. It's like, okay, Tony snaps his finger and Thanos, and he did to them what they were trying to do to him. How do you define,
I guess it's
the hero?
They deserved it.
Intent. So
I think a better comparison would be Walking Dead, like Rick's group versus Negan's group. And how did that all start? Was Rick's group going in and killing a bunch of Negan's men while they slept?
So there was a need. Yeah.
And so it's like, okay, who's the bad guy? If you're looking at it from Negan's side, they got attacked. So what are you going to do? You're going to fight back, right?
That's a good point, because I think before he became Vader, or maybe it was after he became Vader, yeah, and Obi-Wan's like, this is madness. You're the chosen one. You were supposed to bring balance to the Force, not. And he's like, the Jedi. And he's like, well, from my perspective, the Jedi are wrong. The Jedi are evil. And it's like, well, how do you, come to that conclusion?
Yeah, but the Jedi didn't go into the temple and kill a bunch of little kids. So, I mean, you have to look at the actions, right? And even with the Death Star, they had used the Death Star to wipe out Alderaan and killed, millions or billions of people. And now they were going to use it to wipe out the rebel base and kill people. So, and then they would probably go on and kill out billions of more people. So Luke, yes, he did kill however many thousands or however many people were on the Death Star, but ultimately, was he saving lives by doing that? And then, these are complex moral questions that we're asking of Star Wars.
Well, I think like villains in general, all villains feel like what they're doing is right.
Right.
They're the side, it's like, I know what I'm doing. I'm doing the right thing, unless you're like the Joker, maybe, but.
Well, the Empire, Vader, those guys, they're imposing order, right? Like one of the best episodes of Mandalorian was when the Mandalorian and Bill Burr's character, I can't remember his name right now, they sneak into that base, right? That Imperial base, and they wind up with that, for whatever reason, Southern Imperial officer, and he's all like, people don't want freedom. They want order. They want to be told what to do, and then he starts talking about how, well, those soldiers died, but their sacrifice was necessary and all this other stuff. Yeah, there's two very different viewpoints, and I'm sure he thought what he was doing was right. Well,
I mean, that was Loki's whole theory, right? In Infinity War.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, Bob.
Yeah, you all need to be subjugated. You all need to be told what to do.
But I do think Vader is a great villain, so it's kind of cool to see him going back to being more villainous.
It is. Because the Sith, they are, I mean, that is the evil side of the Force, right? There's good and bad. I love the Emperor at the end, do you think it's a good idea? He's still manipulating Anakin, Man.
That's the thing that's a little disappointing about Vader, when you start to realize that he's sort of just this lackey for the Emperor, and that he's so easily, because he's so emotional, he's so easily manipulated, It's just like Obi-Wan, when at the end, like you were talking about, when he told Leia, you're wise and kind, and you get that from your mother, and you're passionate and fearless, you get that from your dad. But yeah, because Anakin was so passionate, he sometimes, he was goaded into things, and he's still goaded into things by the Emperor.
What was cool is that, throughout the films and even the animated series where they had Vader, you'd see him always looking out the window. Not talking to anybody, just looking out the window. And I always wondered, what is he thinking? What is he, And in this series, we see him remembering or going over a duel that he had with Obi-Wan. And Obi-Wan, kind of served him, his butt on a plate. And it's interesting that Anakin's still making the same impulsive mistakes when he's fighting.
Yep.
So I thought that was cool.
He is who he is.
I am what I am, and that's all what I am.
I wonder if and I don't know if the writers do anything like this, but sometimes there are things he says or does, and it feels like he has a measure of self-hatred too. When he talks about, I killed Anakin, and some of the other stuff he says, I don't know if it's a subtle dig at, him hating himself, maybe for what happened to Padme or what, but you have to wonder. Of course, the dude is like basically just a torso anymore, a torso with a head. I mean, those shots where they're pulling him out of his little tank, and it's like, oh, I didn't realize like all his limbs were robotic now, and it's a pretty
I mean, they were all pretty much chopped off and dumped in the lava, so
it was cool to see that final battle. Well, not final for the first season. Both the actors says, "Yeah, we'll come back for a second season." So right there, they're going to do a season 2 of this thing.
If they have too many meetings between Vader and Obi-Wan before, the meeting in the Death Star, it's just going to be like, what did they meet? Like, every year they were meeting before they showed up on the Death Star. It's going to be too much.
Season 2 may not be Vader though. Maybe Vader was the big season 1 villain, and season 2 will be someone else.
Yeah, but I mean, like Larry referenced, because I think Hayden Christensen has expressed, but yeah, probably because he's not, I don't know what else he's doing. Sure, he wants to come back and play Vader, because what else is he up to? But it would be interesting to see if they did a second season, maybe they bring in like the bounty hunters or something instead of Vader, and Kenobi's got to throw them off his trail.
Season 2 could be, season 1 was Leia, maybe season 2 is Luke.
Potentially. It was pretty clear, though, the Emperor said, let it go. Now, Vader could always, go out and do whatever on his own, and, Palpatine might not know. One of the other things I was kind of like dealing with was how surprised Obi-Wan was when he first saw Vader walking, and breaking people's necks and stuff. And I was like, how could he not know? It was almost like he didn't realize that Anakin not only survived, but he became like Darth Vader, right? Because Yoda referred to Anakin as Darth Vader, who killed the younglings. Anakin's dead. It's, Darth Vader.
Did he refer to him as Darth Vader? I haven't gone back and watched. I wanted to go back and watch Revenge of the Sith, but I didn't.
Yoda did. When he who would do this? All the younglings like Darth Vader did this, and it's like, well, how did Yoda know it was Darth Vader at that point? But maybe it's a Force thing. I'm not a Jedi, so I don't know. Or it could have been lazy writing. But yeah, Yoda does refer to Anakin as Darth Vader. So,
okay.
So Obi-Wan, you would assume now, maybe, Tatooine is in the Outer Rim. And even when the Inquisitors landed there, there was that older woman who says, this is Tatooine. The Empire has no, power here. And Reva just chops off her hand to say, yes, we do. So I don't know. I mean, how could he not know that Vader was out there? Because he's in hiding. Well, maybe the Emperor was going to try and hunt down the Jedi. I don't know. So, little fuzzy moment, but I still love that Obi-Wan was like a broken man, a shell of himself, and he just fell into this like routine of this mundane life. And even when a Jedi came, Obi-Wan, Master Kenobi, and if I were you, I'd take that lightsaber and bury it in the desert. And then the guy ends up getting, hung, killed, and.
But this is also where he kind of accepts his identity as Ben.
Yeah.
Instead of Obi-Wan. Because a couple people call him Obi-Wan. No, my name's Ben.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it did tie up a few things and kind of explain some stuff that probably, maybe didn't need explaining, but you got to tie it all together somehow.
Yeah, it's true. How do you guys feel about his relationship with Owen, or lack thereof?
Well, I mean, in Star Wars, Owen refers to him as some crazy old man out in the dunes, right? I mean,
crazy old wizard.
Yeah. So obviously they didn't have they obviously didn't see eye to eye. I mean, Obi-Wan wants to train him as a Jedi, and Owen wants him to just stay home, work on the farm, be a regular kid, which is more fully explained during this series. I just think they kind of come to an understanding that, okay, he can grow up as a kid until he decides to do something else, or he grows into his role, and then the crazy old guy in the dunes will come get him. But I mean, I think it explained more deeply why that is.
I had wondered, if his plan was to train Luke and he removed himself from the Force, and that was a great episode when he was like trying to move that object and trying to get his Force mojo back. But if he cut himself off from the Force, like Luke did in the later trilogies, he removed himself from the Force. How would he train Luke when Luke hit that age to become a Jedi? If it seemed like Obi-Wan had given up to me.
I think he did.
Yeah. So how was he going to? Because he tells Owen, "Well, I have to train the boy when he, grows up." Part of the journey in this series was Obi-Wan accepting, I am a Jedi. We lost the fight, but I'm still a Jedi. And I was reading some, chit chat online, and they're like, well, he had to remove himself from the Force so that other Force sensitive, people like the Inquisitors wouldn't find him. And, I mean, that kind of makes sense. But I really enjoyed the growth of the Obi-Wan Kenobi character up to and including him finally figuring out how to talk with Master Qui-Gon.
You know, you knew they were going to do that at some point, but I felt it was sort of tacked on at the end. Like,
really?
Qui-Gon's appearance didn't contribute anything. I mean, it didn't matter. Like, he didn't appear at any crucial moment or anything. It was just sort of like, okay, it's the last minute of the show here. We got to put Qui-Gon in. Okay,
let's put him in for season 2. So
it was
that was a tease. But I mean, really, he at the beginning, you find out he hasn't been able to communicate with Qui-Gon, and then he goes through this whole quest, and he gets his mojo back, and he embraces his role as a Jedi. Has his hello there conversation with Luke, and then he goes back to live in the dunes, and his reward for doing all that was Qui-Gon appearing. Okay, now you're worthy. Here I am. Let's go hang out.
Yeah,
it just seemed a little anticlimactic.
Well, now that you say it, Karen, I think, the 5 seconds of Emperor Palpatine did more, I think, for the story than the, 5 or 10 seconds of Qui-Gon appearing to Obi-Wan. It was still nice to see Qui-Gon, though.
I mean, nice to see him, but I think, the Emperor's appearance was more impactful just in what it told you about Vader, whereas Qui-Gon appearing was just sort of kind of like what Bob was saying. It was like, oh, here's a reward for all this stuff. Here you go. You guys wanted to see Qui-Gon. Here's
your piece of butterscotch candy.
Mm-hmm.
All right, well, let me ask you guys this now. Let's not necessarily in a season 2, but where do you think Reva's journey goes now? What's her next move, I guess, going? Does she continue to go after Vader and or the Empire? Does she help the Resistance, or are they rebels yet, or Resistance? I'm trying to think.
They're rebels, aren't they?
They're rebels
Rebel
at
Alliance.
this point, right? So where do you think they would take her?
Probably to her own spin-off series somewhere.
We'll see if the crazy toxic portion of the Star Wars fandom doesn't lose their minds over it. I'm getting so fed up with these people who and I don't think it's a majority of the Star Wars fans, but like
no, it's
Bob
a very
said,
small vocal group.
Right. It's a small nut job group of fans who, like, if it's not, like you're saying, like if they lost their minds when like Rey was announced for the new trilogy too, or Finn. It's just like, I don't know where these racist knuckleheads are coming from, but it's like they need to just get the hell out of Star Wars and Star Trek and all the other stuff we like, because it's just infuriating. But she was a good actress. I thought she did a really good job, and in some ways it was almost unfair because you bring in a villain like Vader, nobody can compete with Vader. So she's sort of always going to be like in this secondary position of villainy. You can never be as bad as Darth Vader. But right. Larry, now she's got to make amends for everything. So I don't know, would the Rebel Alliance accept her after everything that she's done, or is she going to be off on her own like a lone wolf trying to bring down the Empire?
It's a great question. Real quickly, getting back to the racial issues, it was The Last Jedi, Kelly Marie Tran played Rose, and they were vicious. And she closed all her social media accounts, and it was this close not doing any of the red carpet, interviews and stuff. It's so toxic, and it's an unfortunate, reality that kind of enters into our fantasy world.
Yeah.
Well, also diminished her role in Rise of Skywalker, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because she was barely in
and
that.
I love and don't get me wrong, I appreciate Reva and her character, the actor. Why can't there be more people of color? Why is there only ever one character of color that enters into, I mean, other than The Last Jedi, where you had, Finn, John Boyega, and it's only ever a handful. Look, when I go to work, when I live in the real world, it's a rainbow out there. Well, where I live, I understand
you're on the West Coast,
parts of the world, parts of the United States, right, where it's, I don't know, it bothers me. Even, you think back with Star Trek, Plato's, was it Plato's children or Plato's stepchildren?
Stepchildren.
First biracial kiss between Uhura and Kirk, and they banned it in some of the southern states. They wouldn't air the episode. And here we are decades later, still, it's an ugly existence. And like I said, it shouldn't enter into our fantasy world. But back to Reva. I would, if they gave her a series, have her take down the Inquisitors or help the Jedi find, that group of people, the Rebel Alliance or, something like that. She's such a strong actress. I would hope they use her in future endeavors.
Well, I think Lucasfilm, Disney, they realize that the critics of her role are not the majority of Star Wars fans.
Oh yeah.
So I think they realize that that she is okay, and they'll put her in something else. Don't know what.
I think it was great. Ewan McGregor came out like right away with the video. Like, he's driving in a car or something, or sitting in a car, and he's just saying that, these are not. Don't consider yourself a Star Wars fan. Anson Mount put on a tweet. He's Pike over on Strange New Worlds, the same thing. I mean, they're all just like, enough. So it's at least we have, she has our support, other actor support moving forward.
Yeah.
Okay. So, what was I going to say?
Go ahead.
Yeah, Karen, go ahead. No.
Well, one thing we haven't said anything about, which I think is important, is what a good job Ewan McGregor does as Obi-Wan Kenobi. He's just so good. I mean, I was not a huge prequels fan. I had my issues with it, and although I tend to look at it a little more favorably now over the years, but he was always good in the prequels. He's such a good actor. He always did such a good job as Obi-Wan. And, here he is stepping back into this role all these years later and, playing, as we've talked about, a really downtrodden version of this guy who, was this Jedi Knight. I mean, the elite of the elite, and he's had to learn some very hard lessons, and he just does it so well. His interactions with Leia are so good and so pitch perfect, and his interactions with Darth Vader. I mean, he's just every emotion just felt
all the feels.
Right.
The feels. It was
such a good job.
Well, plus he's got the voice and the inflections down without doing an out and out imitation of Sir Alec Guinness.
Mm-hmm. It does the little beard thing where he pulls on the side of his beard just like Alec Guinness did, and he's got that sort of, he's got an elegance or a sort of refined sort of nature to him. But especially once he starts, getting back his his mojo, as you guys said.
Mm-hmm.
You can see him, starting to transform, and the way he cares for the people, when they're taking off in the ships and all those people are there that, Ice Cube's son, O'Shea Jackson. Yeah. It's like Ice Cube's son is in Star Wars now. But, when he's working with him and he's, trying to make sure that everybody's safe and, I'm going to offer myself up and do all this other stuff. Yeah, he just like was perfect through this whole thing. I mean, that's the one thing I would have zero complaints about is his performance. He was just absolutely perfect through the whole thing.
I agree. What a joy to watch. Like you said, Walker, after all these years, just coming back in and, like I said, bringing all the feels. I mean, man, it was just a great, great experience. And, I asked myself, this gets back to what you said, actually, Walker. Do we need a season 2? Do I want a season 2? Do I need a season 2? This was such a good series. Who was it? Damon Lindelof. They did the thing for HBO Max. It was, God bless it.
Watchmen?
The Watchmen series.
Yeah.
And that is if you guys haven't seen it, binge on that. Ended so well and told such a complete story that they were like, maybe he learned from Lost. We're not going to mess with this. We're just going to close it out. I could see them doing that with Obi-Wan. They had a beginning, middle, and an end to this story, and I'd be okay with it. Now, if they gave us a season 2, I'd watch it. I'd try not to have high expectations. Let me ask you guys this: if they do have a season 2 of Obi-Wan, who would you have in there? They're not going to use Vader because, they already did that. Doesn't have to be a villain. Could be Yoda. Maybe you want to bring Yoda in and meet Ben. I don't know. Who would you maybe not have an integral part of the story? Maybe it's just a Qui-Gon walk-on 5-second thing. What legacy character would you maybe bring in for a little soiree with Obi-Wan?
It's tough because you got all these rules and canon and stuff that you can't, violate. But I do like the idea of the bounty hunters coming after him. But I wouldn't want to bring in what's his name, Boba Fett, because it's like, oh, we already know there's things going on with him. Maybe like Bosk.
There were some Bosk creatures in Boba Fett, yeah. So
maybe Zuckuss and Bosk, or some of those other guys we saw in Empire, and you'd have to figure it out. So, like, if everybody starts figuring out that Obi-Wan's on Tatooine,
he'd have to leave Tatooine to go help someone or do something. Based on the Clone Wars animated series, he had a relationship with Mandalore.
Right.
And the Mandalorian culture. I mean, you could, move somewhat in that direction. Personally, because I don't think he's dead. I think Mace Windu survived that encounter with Emperor Palpatine. I mean, anything with Samuel Jackson I'll watch, but you bring him in and just, Obi-Wan, we need your help. You gotta, it's like, Master Windu? What the hell? And mayhem ensues. That would be my pick.
Well, I had seen online that the original idea for the movie was basically Luke got caught in between. It was almost like maybe not a war, but a disagreement between the farmers and the Sand People. And that was like the basis of the movie. So, it might be something as simple as that. Yeah. And Obi-Wan's got to go in and get him out of there.
Get him out of them Tusken Raiders.
Another thing I appreciate, anytime I can see a Jawa on screen, little teeny, I'm all good.
Yeah, they had a few. I liked his little Jawa friend. I think it was the first episode, right? Comes into his cave and is trying to say, if you're going to sell me things you've stolen from me, then the least you can do is clean them.
And he got that little model ship for Luke. I mean, that was so cool. You know, little nods like that I like.
Yeah. All in all, I really enjoyed it, and it was one of those series where I was going into it a little bit skeptically, but yeah, I thought it was very entertaining, and just the stuff with Vader and Obi-Wan, surprisingly, because I kind of felt like, haven't we done this before with Ahsoka and Vader, and they had their duel, and I do, awesome. Yeah, it was, and I do think the final duel in episode 6 of this show had some similarities to Ahsoka's fight with Vader, but you know what? I'm okay with it.
Me too.
So we'll do another podcast when they do season 2 then.
It's rather predictable, but yes.
Well, my friends, that brings us to that part of the program where we talk about our censor sweep. Now, we're also going to be talking about Creatures Con, but I think maybe we'll do our censor sweep first. So, Karen, if you will, take it away.
Okay, well, to go along with our topic today, I'm going to plug a book that I read a while ago, but it's still relatively new, called Secrets of the Force. You know, and I have this deja vu, like, did I already talk about this book? And I might have, but that's okay. I'm at that age. I never can remember, did I already talk about this? So Secrets of the Force is the complete, uncensored, unauthorized oral history of Star Wars by Edward Gross and Mark A. Altman. And this is a really fun book because the authors go in and they have interviews with all these different folks who worked or were associated with Star Wars in some way. So there's quotations from George Lucas and Mark Hamill, Ralph McQuarrie, Richard Edlund, Dennis Muren, all these folks who worked on it. And they go chronologically. Yeah, they start with the original trilogy and work through the prequels and the new trilogy, and then all the way to the first TV show to Mandalorian. Oh, and I think they do some of the animated stuff too.
Nice.
Well, yeah, actually they do, now that I'm looking at it. So this big honkin' book can be found, I'm sure, with fine booksellers everywhere, or of course that vast monopoly known as Amazon.
It is less than 4 figures, though.
It's a fun read, and I highly recommend it.
And what's the name of that book again, Walker?
Secrets of the Force.
Well, I'm sure it was found in some Jedi temple, and
I ran in and saved it before Luke set everything on fire.
There you go. Excellent. All right. Now, our friends are going to be over at Creatures Con. Lord Bloodraw and Tom Wersch going to have their show coming up in August. And who has details on that? Is it Bob or Karen?
It's August 7th is Creatures Con, and that's at the Concord Plaza in Concord, California.
Woohoo!
And we're going to be there.
All three of us.
All three of us. Fine.
Bringing Karen down from the satellite.
That's right.
For a personal appearance.
Beaming down. No interocitor this year.
No interocitor this year. In the flesh.
So yes, Creatures Con is going to be very exciting. I know we're all excited because David J. Schall, who, oh my gosh, he's written so many great books. My favorite by him is called The Monster Show, which is a history of monster films and looking at sort of the cultural connections behind monster movies. He's also done a lot of commentary on films, and a lot of he's got a book out recently on Dracula, and just he's done a lot of cool stuff. So he's going to be there, kids.
Nice.
So should definitely.
And we're going to try to get him on the show.
Yeah, we're going to do what we can. They're also going to our friends Lord Bloodraw and Tom Wersch are going to do, Creature Cons is going to host a 90th anniversary of The Mummy the day before, August 6th, at the Orinda Theater. And they're going to show the Mummy, that's 1932. And David J. Schall is going to be there along with Sarah Karloff, the daughter of Boris Karloff. So,
yeah, Sarah will be at Creatures Con as well.
Yes. So lots of stuff going on, and
as well as recent Rondo Monster Kid Hall of Fame inductee Mr. Lobo will be there as well.
Oh, he is. I had not heard that. Okay, well, that's cool.
I'm pretty sure he is. If he's not, I'm going to be very disappointed. I'm going to call him up and make sure he's there.
Hey, our friend and yours, John Stanley, will be there.
Ah, yes.
So we'll try to get some interviews with other guests. And we're going to try to do an episode with David J. Schall, but we'll get another episode going with a bunch of interviews with other guests and creative people and hosts and whoever else is there. We'll see who we can scare up.
We'll have a little
Worst
table.
Case scenario. That's right. We'll have a table as well. Worst case scenario, you'll get these three knuckleheads. I mean, your intrepid Planet 8 crew with an episode.
We'll have our table set up. We'll have fun and surprises planned.
What else do we have to do but just sit and yak, right?
Yak away. We'll still be talking about Obi-Wan. No.
Yeah.
We'll move on to something else by then.
No, we'll try and make a pretty cool booth there. We'll bring some prop stuff and Planet 8 stuff and whatever.
Some little giveaways.
Yeah.
You guys, or if you're at the show, stop by and say hi and check us out and take some pictures with us and say hello. Well, my friends, another episode done. Everyone out there listening, stay safe, take care of yourselves. We'll see you at Creatures Con. Until then, peace out.
On that note, this will conclude this transmission from Planet 8. We would like to thank all of our intergalactic audience for listening. Be sure to head on over to our website at www.planet8podcast.com, where you can get more information on this episode's topic.
For more conversation, find us on Twitter at Planet8Cast.
Or on Facebook at facebook.com/Planet8Podcast.
We want to thank you guys for tuning in each and every episode. We look forward to your input and opinions. Until next time, this is Planet 8 signing off. End transmission.
By George, he's got it. It is the end.
You must leave.